Talking about the British eight just there. I mean, there was big news in rowing about Jurgen Grobler retiring. I put retiring in sort of inverted commas there. Because he didn't want to go, and I think it's difficult to know what to believe, but I think there was some moves against him. I think that maybe the performance director decided, that he wanted a different kind of system.
I heard it was his wife who wanted him to take a holiday.
I would imagine that his wife had got used to him rowing all these years, but he was desperate to carry on. I think, he saw, we'll talk about the 2019, in 2019 in shortly, but, the British eight was so fast in the heat from the 2019 World Championships. And he blamed himself for not doing the right things in between the heat and the final for the performance of the British eight. They were going to win a gold medal, he thought, and so he wanted to make that right. So he definitely didn't want to go. And
I have nothing but respect for Jurgen Grobler. He is the most successful coach in rowing ever, maybe even the most successful sports coach ever. And he's gone without, he hasn't gone a single Olympic Games without a gold medal, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. So if for British rowing, but also for global rowing, to lose such a person, that'll be missed.
Yeah.
And it's a shame if it were because of politics, because from what you tell me, obviously he was still motivated to
yeah. I think, I don't know of how many. I think there are a significant number of unhappy athletes in the British team that wanted to be coached by him. I'm not sure whether every athlete is unhappy, but it's something that was quite very surprising, shocking to happen.
Yeah, for us it was a shock as well, because he's been like a pillar of British rowing for as long as every one of our team has been active, and that includes guys like Mark Emke and Diederik Sieben, who've been active for a very long time.
Yeah.
But it's a shame when rowing, when sports and politics get mixed up. So I think performance should never suffer under political issues in the background.
Yeah.
And I think that the current philosophy in our team is that whatever decision is being made should be in the best interest of the athletes.
Yeah.
And I don't know the specifics, but if it were for the best interest of the British rowing athletes to have Jurgen Grobler involved, then that would be an easy decision for me.
Yeah. Let's leave that and go to your 2019 season. The Dutch eight looked good in 2019. I think you won a medal in the Europeans early that season in Lucerne, and you had, even though it was on a very windy course in Rotterdam and you didn't have a great lane, you had a fantastic performance because you were right up there with the Germans and the British, who had the best lanes for the Rotterdam regatta. So you came to the World Championships with a good season.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we had after the European Championships in Lucerne, we had the slight switch around in the crew. We had the two big mountains of guys coming from America.
Yeah,
who finished their college season.
Herkmans and Van Dort.
Yeah. And they came over and they earned a spot in the eight. So the crew changed after the European Championships, which was already a good crew.
Yeah.
But we thought that was an improvement. So we were quite confident going into the World Championships. Yeah.
So one of the things that I think about the Dutch eight is I think about this word consistency, and I'm kind of looking at your performance in the first heat, and I'm thinking, well, that's inconsistent. That's not consistent with what I've seen through the season. How much of that was an issue for you in that first heat of the World Championships 2019?
So to answer your question, is the heat in the World Championships, that was the second, I think, side-by-side racing we did with that combination of crew. So it was quite difficult for us to know where we're at,
Yeah,
and what was our racing style, and what was the race going to be like with this crew, because the only race we did was in Rotterdam, which was in very difficult conditions. So that was a bad example for side-by-side racing for that crew. So the word consistency does not really come into mind, because there was nothing to compare it with.
yeah,
And I'm really glad we improved during that regatta,
yeah.
because it was not so good.
You, you you made a bold decision to change round Bjorn van den Ende and Michael Vislush for the bow and the 7 seats. Whose decision was that? Was it the crew's? Was it Mark's? Was it a collective decision?
So that was fun, right? Changing around. It was pretty unusual. Now after the heat, we knew we needed a little extra to make a really good performance, and this was one of the options that some of the more creative minds in our crew came up with. And then we discussed it first with the more experienced guys, and then with the entire crew, and it seemed like a good option, and we had the opportunity to try it in the rapid charge.
Yeah.
And well, it couldn't hurt us that much. So if it brought us extra speed, that would be great. And we thought it wouldn't bring the level down any.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We just went for it, and it gave more of a click in the crew.
Fantastic thing. I've got some pictures of your final now. I'd just like you maybe to talk through, starting with you sitting on the start. Maybe just to talk us through that race. How did you feel sat on the start of the race back then, Ruben?
Well, sitting on the start of any race is always a nervous moment. It's like the quiet before the storm. And it's going to hurt in a couple moments, but well, that's just, you have to accept that. And in this particular race, I knew we'd done the work, and we were in good shape, so I was quite confident going into the race.
I was just starting to look at you sitting on the start, and then I was asking what your aim was for that race. Was it to win? Was it to get a medal? Was it to qualify for the Olympics?
I think a key point in being in a race is not focusing on what's going to happen. Just focusing on what you're doing at that moment.
Yeah.
That's always at the start. If you think about, we need to get a medal, or we need to get out in front, I mean, what's going to happen is going to happen. You just have to do what you know you have to do. Focus on.
I mean, you weren't necessarily quick off the start, but I think you were kind of in about third or fourth place going through the first marker.
Possibly something like that. Yeah. Start wasn't our strong suit that race. There's definitely room for improvement in that specific start.
Yeah.
But we knew that if we were in touch with the especially the Germans,
yeah,
after about 500 meters, that we would stand a good chance of at least keeping up with them, but also catching them again.
And it must have been. I mean, you moved fantastically through the second 500 because you went from fourth, I think, into second through the 1,000, and then you had this great duel with the Germans. You were, I think, the closest you got to them was maybe about 3 meters. The boat must have felt great during that period of the race.
Well, to me, like during a race, the boat never feels great. It's always, so as the boat is trying to slow you down and you want it to go faster and faster and faster.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was moving well, but there was just so much raw power going around in R8 at that moment. Yeah. Like these two big guys in the middle of the boat, they were just driving it and driving it.
It's really. Is it, how motivational is it? Is it Simon van Dorp's got the world record or close to the world record on the 2K test? How motivational is it to have guys like that in your 8 that can also row well?
I think it's always like, with power like that, you can really feel it going around in the boat.
Yeah.
If he puts his mind to it and he starts moving that boat, it's just like you can't do anything but go with him. It's just so dominant, that feeling. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And what do you remember of that last 500 meters? You were in touch with the Germans. What was your coxswain saying? You know, what were you aware of in terms of the race?
Yeah, the last 500 meters of a race is very difficult to keep like conscious view on what's going on. But it's just going for it. That's the point. I think we were just too late in really going to catch them.
Yeah.
I think they reacted 2 or 3 strokes before we did, and they took maybe 2 seats lead. Yeah. And on the finish line, we just we had like 0.3 seconds.
Yeah,
like
that was it. 0.3. Yeah. 0.55. I think I'm looking at the timesheet. I've got it here.
We're well prepared.
Yeah.
It's just, you just do what the coxswain tells you to do, and you just go for it. It's just shut your eyes and go for it.
That's really so. Describe your feelings, because you've been rowing, since 2006. This was your first World Championship medal. Describe your feelings at that moment and the medal ceremony and so forth.
The funny thing is, like, a medal ceremony at the World Championships isn't any different from a medal ceremony at the World Cup or even at the national regatta.
Yeah.
It's just, we make the World Championships a bigger thing, so it feels like a bigger thing as well.
Yeah.
That's, in the end, that's what it's about. The only thing bigger than the World Championships is the Olympic Games. But it just feels it after. I think it's after 13 years of rowing, getting my first World Championship medals was pretty great.
Yeah.
Especially since I feel I'm still improving and I still can get better.
Yeah.
And I've got the required amount of experience now to really perform at the highest level, which was more difficult before.
Yes.
So I feel I've done more than 10 years of sowing, and now I can reap.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of putting it. And given that, I mean, how, I know it's a while ago now, and we're talking about a race next week, but how did the postponement of the Olympics affect you or affect the crew?
Well, it's a really strange situation.
Yeah.
It's a moment you're looking forward to, and you're also working forward to. And I remember the feeling that we were going into this part of the season where everything starts to go it's like a waterfall. It goes
Yeah.
faster and faster and faster, and before you know it, you're in Tokyo and you're doing the Olympics. And precisely at that point where that would have started, going into the World Cup season, going into training camp season, everything, it was just cut off, and there was nothing. It was just a gap. It was like, oh, what are we going to do now? What's the season going to be like? What's the training going to be like? What are we doing? Yeah, are we going to train for next year? And I think our coaches gave us a couple of weeks off, which was a really wise decision.
Yeah.
Just clear our minds and do some easy work, but not do too much. And luckily in the Netherlands, we didn't have a complete lockdown. We had like a work at home, but you could still go out situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the rowing clubs were closed, so we couldn't do any on water training. But I did a lot of cycling and I enjoyed myself, and it was nice weather outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad no one from my family and from my close friends got seriously ill, and everyone was healthy and relatively happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the crew, yeah, I can't speak for everyone, but it's just a difficult situation. You're used to working very closely together every day for weeks, months on end, and then everyone's just gone, and your goal is gone, and your future plans are disturbed. And that's very difficult for people to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess with Mark Emke, you must have come through that now. How would you describe your crew's mentality now at this time of the season? Is it Tokyo focused, or purely and simply on the European Championships and the racing around that?
If you were to ask me this question 2 months ago, I would have said it was Tokyo focused.
Yeah.
At this moment, we're going into a regatta, so it's focused on the short-term goals, and we're really looking forward to racing in the European Championships.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have any thoughts beyond the Tokyo Olympics for what you'll do? How are you going to make that decision?
Let's see. Like, it's always in elite sports. There's a certain horizon.
Yeah.
And for me, the horizon is in Tokyo at the moment.
Yeah.
And I had planned for myself, if Tokyo were this year, I had plans for myself to go to school again.
Oh, wow.
And get a degree in exercise physiology.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was supposed to get married with my fiance.
Oh,
We got it postponed.
whoa, God, yeah, that's something.
And we were looking into buying a house and some stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's all gone past the new Tokyo. And then career-wise, yeah, we'll have to see. I'm very open in doing new things, whichever comes in my on my path.
Yeah.
But I'm still enjoying rowing so much that I think it would be a waste to quit.
Yeah. And it's only 3 years to Paris.
Yeah, it's a cheap one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also looking into like I think I would be a good rowing coach as well.
I was going to ask you that. It's just in my head.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really nice job. It's the second best thing to being a rower.
Yeah. 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 That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Only it pays better and you can do it for longer.
Yeah. 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 Given your experiences, which have been, amazing, such a breadth of experiences you've had in your rowing career, what advice would you give to someone like you starting out in rowing? Or would you what would you think would be important for them to know or to understand?
I think the most important thing to understand is and to know is yourself, and it's very important to find out what kind of person you want to be, what kind of rower you want to be, what's your training mentality, what's your work ethics, what's the way you want to work together with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not only going to help you in rowing, but that's also going to help you in your personal relationships and your career beyond rowing, because it's very important. You're going to have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. And elite sports is so confronting with your own personality. You find your own limitations and your own borders, and you have to work with them or surpass them or improve on your weak points.
Yeah.
So it's really also a journey of personal development.
Wow. That's very profound, very interesting. You're a very profound and interesting man to talk to, Ruben.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you. That's it.
So, I mean, what have you got planned tonight? Are you having a nice meal with your fiance, or?
Oh, I think my fiance's got a party planned for herself, which the week before the European Championships, obviously I cannot go to.
Yeah.
But she's invited someone over to dinner, and we're going to have dinner, and afterwards I'll just chill out, play a video game, or watch a movie or series.
Yeah.
And it's nothing special planned.
No. Well, Ruben, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You've been a lovely man. I really learned a lot talking to you. I think you'd be a great coach as well.
Yeah, thanks.
So I will say thank you very much for spending this time with us, and thanks everyone for watching as well.
All right, bye. Ciao.